Okay, to start, I'm just going to do what I can basically in a simple mind map to see how far I can stretch it, but just in a simple mind map, so it's not going to delve us that far yet. The first thing I wanted to think about when I was doing this was, I thought it was a good starting point, is when can you perceive someone to be old? Is it more a physical thing? 1 second. Is it more like their actual age and all the physical things that come from that? Things like, obviously their looks is the most obvious one. Wrinkles, and balding, and then the other physical ones, due to their actual age, are they're more likely to catch diseases. And it's a good question. Does their age actually affect their thought process, or is that unaffected? I'll come back to that. And then the other side is, of course, is it more a mental thing? And like I said, one of the questions I like to ask is, which way does this round? Which way does this go? Does the which one, basically? So I'm not sure. In this in this area where we live in the moment, there's a lot of emphasis on people's looks, and you're sort of less likely to take in someone's thought process unless you know them from a long time. Anyway, yeah, and also, so again, if it's a mixture between both. But then again, some things like disease, you can't be chosen. So, and they are more likely to with age, you can't fight that. Okay, that was basically where I got to with that, in the first part. The next thing I wanted to tackle was current views. Where are we? Okay. Obviously, this can be split into, let's go down here, with negative, and positive. Come back to that one though. First, the negatives. In the current culture, there's a large live fast, die young, being old is uncool in a way, and then that stems onto them being sort of a burden. Okay. And yeah, another one. They're not part of this sort of sex, drugs, rock and roll era. Our parents, they really were, but the current elderly, like the baby boom elderly, are not. So, and this actually reminded me of a song by Frank Turner. By Frank Turner, called Love Iron Song. I think it explains it quite well. Although it's more about losing face when you're older. I'll just quickly play that for you.
A teacher of mine once told me that life was just a list of disappointments and defeats, and you could only do your best. And I said, well, that's a fucking cop-out. You're just washed up and you're tired, and when I get to your age, well, I won't be such a coward. But these days I sit at home, known to shout at my TV, and punk rock didn't live up to what I'd hoped that it could be. And all the things that I believed with all my heart when I was young are just coasters for beers and clean surfaces for drugs. And I packed all my pamphlets with my Bibles at the back of the shelf.
Yeah, obviously that song's just about him losing face, and I think it relates well back to like the idea I was coming to earlier about the when you elderly, does your thought process change? Is that because you've elderly because you've seen a lot more, or is that like purely a mental thing that you're like losing a bit and it just happens to be when you're older, and some people do that before? Okay, right, where are we? I had negative views. Let's go to the positive views. I didn't get much for this. I didn't think there was like, so I just put some aspects that are often associated with kindness and wisdom, I think especially. Okay, and then I thought I'd go into some of the stereotypical views. For elderly. I think it's hard for people to, obviously some stereotypes, or all stereotypes, stem in some form of truth. And these often come from like, well, it's hard to find like the actual, you can't really know about old people, and if you're basing these things on stereotypes, then your view on stereotypes, and I think you're going to get let down with your view of old people, because though they're based in some truth, it's hardly going to be the most accurate.